Hello, everybody. We're going to be talking about globalization today. My name is Richard Stern. Our content, we're going to talk about the importance of globalization, go over the various authors that I have selected, put it into context, go over their theories, and then put it into review, followed by a brief conclusion. So, what is globalization? It is a term that is applied to describe how trade and technology have made the planet more interconnected and interdependent. Globalization is another word for internationalization. It is an economic activity that is fuel and furnace for cross-border integration. As we move forward with this, ask yourself this question: how are individuals and collective identities changing as a result of globalization? So, what is the importance? It has the potential to improve global standards of living by increasing access to goods and services. Globalization enables the exchange of cultural values among people of different backgrounds, which could increase global tolerance. With the diffusion of technology across borders, it is reasonable to assume innovation of technology and science can be fostered. Negative consequences, such as there are negative consequences of globalization, such as economic inequality, job displacement, labor exploitation, environmental degradation, cultural homogenization, and social dislocation. Getting into our theorists, let's talk about Max Weber. Weber's key ideology, according to Gardner and Hancock, was that action has become increasingly formal and rational throughout history. What Weber meant by this is that in developed modern societies, behavior followed a logical order to bring a desired result. It is this rationality that, alongside the profit-seeking nature of capitalism, that has created formal organization structures like bureaucracies. A bureaucracy is distinct from other organizations because it is characterized by specific features such as hierarchical structure, meaning it has a clear system of rank with officials at every level with jurisdiction over specific tasks. There is a clear division of labor with rules and procedures that are impersonal and specialized in function. This comes from economy and society. Weber's belief about capitalism, contemporary capitalism, attempts to provide an understanding of the complexity between economic, cultural, and institutional values that shape the trajectory of westernized societies. Modernity, described by Weber as an iron cage where individuals are trapped by impersonal forces, bureaucracy with stifled freedom and creativity, and a capitalistic market economy, all leading to social stratification. So, what has he contributed to globalization? Well, economy and society provides foundational insights into various aspects of modern society and economics, some of which are relevant to understanding globalization. While the text doesn't explicitly discuss globalization, several concepts and themes can be used for the study, such as his ideas on bureaucracy. Weber's analysis of bureaucracy is highly relevant to understanding organizational structures of modern corporations and institutions that operate on a global level. Bureaucratic forms of organizations characterized by hierarchical structures, division of labor, and formal rules and procedures have played a significant role in facilitating the expansion and management of global enterprises and institutions. Capitalism, Weber's analysis of capitalism and its relationship to modernity provides insights into economic and cultural dimensions of globalization. He examined how capitalism, with its emphasis on rational calculation, entrepreneurship, and market competition, has shaped modern societies and facilitated global economic integration. Weber's framework for understanding social stratification, which includes dimensions of class, status, party, offers a lens through which to analyze the global distribution of wealth, power, and prestige. His insights into the complexity of social inequality and the dynamics of class formation are relevant to understanding uneven impacts of globalization on different social groups. So while economy and society doesn't offer a direct address to globalization, Weber's conceptual framework and analysis of modern society does offer valuable insights into the dynamics of the globalization process. So let's talk about Merton. Merton's theory of anomie builds on Durkheim's ideas, but expands on them by emphasizing the roles of social structure in creating anomie. He argues that societies have culturally defined goals for success, but not all individuals have equal access to legitimate means of achieving these goals due to structural inequalities like poverty or discrimination. This disjunction between goals and the means to achieve them leads to anomie, a state of normlessness characterized by frustration and alienation. Merton has adaptations that individuals may take in response to anomie, which are listed on our slide here: conformity, innovation, ritualism, retreatism, and rebellion. If we look at his contribution to globalization, his concept of anomie, originally formulated in the context of analyzing deviance within societies, can be related to globalization in several ways. Cultural dislocation. If looking at globalization, it often entails the spread of new ideas, values, and cultural practices across borders, which we established earlier. This can lead to a sense of cultural dislocation or disorientation among individuals, which could lead to an identity crisis or cultural blending. Um, uh, Merton's concept of nomi, which refers to the breakdown of social norms and values, can be relevant in understanding the disorienting effects of globalization on individuals who feel disoriented or disconnected from familiar cultural contexts and normalities. For example, if we think about his adaptations like conformity, which refers to both cultural goals and institutional means being realized, or if we look at adaptation 4, which is retreatism, it's a rejection of cultural goals and institutional means to achieve them. These could both be results of anomy generated from the effects of globalization. If we look at economic inequality, globalization has been associated with increasing economic inequality both within and between countries. As traditional economic structures are disrupted and new forms of global capitalism emerge, there can be a sense of anomie among individuals who feel excluded from or marginalized by the effect of globalization. This can manifest in various forms of deviant behavior, including crime, social unrest, and protest, as people seek to address the perceived injustice and inequalities. Merton argues that physical institutions structurally handicap the impoverished by limiting access to education and other social services, which may increase the likelihood of deviance, lack of conformity, and this is a result of social structure. Overall, Merton's concept of anomie provides a framework for understanding social dislocation, economic inequality, and cultural transformation associated with globalization. By highlighting the breakdown of traditional social norms and values faced by rapid social change, Merton's theory offers insights into the social dynamics and consequences of globalization. So, moving on to C. Wright Mills, Mills was known for examining structure and power in American society, primarily pertaining to the way in which elites affect political, economic, and social processes. In The Power Elite, he posits that a small group of interconnected individuals and institutions hold disproportionate power over a society's direction. So, some key themes from his work. Power in modern society is concentrated among a network of individuals who occupy specific positions that allow them to collaborate their common interests and dominate society. And speaking of the everyday man, Mills highlights that great changes are beyond their control but affect their conduct and outlook nonetheless. Mills points out that as each domain, political, military, economic, becomes more enlarged, the consequences of its activities become more important. If the government intervention in If there is government intervention in the corporate economy, so is there corporate intervention in the government process. This type of networking allows for corporate leaders to hold influence over economic decisions in the way of policymaking. There's also elite solidarity. Mills posits that amongst the power elite, regardless of positions held, despite apparent differences in spheres of influence, their shared backgrounds, interests, and values integrate their corporate, military, and political ideologies into a collective direction for society. Every one of the very rich families has been closely connected with one of the multi-million-dollar corporations. So, what are his contributions to globalization? While Mills explores the top echelon of American society in the mid 20th century, certain aspects of his work can be applied to globalization. Global capitalism and its relationship to the corporate elite. Mills discusses the corporate elite and the power elite, wherein he promotes their influence over the economic policies and the market dynamics. In the context of globalization, multinational corporations have held increasing power over the world economy, influencing across borders and wielding significant influence over global production and trade. These elites would be identified by Mills as central figures in shaping international economic policies, negotiating trade agreements, and exploiting global market opportunities, transnational networks, and interlocking points. So, with this, in the context of globalization, the network that extend beyond national borders and create alliances between corporate leaders facilitate collaboration and coordination among global corporations would tie into Mill's framework. The consequences of the actions of these major corporations would also be felt globally using his algorithm. An interesting example of this occurring in modern time is the appointment of the special envoy title to the pop music group BTS in their home government of South Korea before attending the 76th General Assembly in New York, where they were to address poverty, hunger, and climate change alongside their country's president. Um, Capitalism as a World System by Emmanuel uh, Wallerstein here. So, capitalism is not confined to an economic system with a single national boundary. Capitalism, from Wallerstein's perspective, is a global system characterized by interconnectedness and interdependence, further characterized by historic expansion of European nations and the development of an integrated global economy. Capitalism is an economic mode based on the fact that the economic factors operate within an arena larger than that which any political entity can totally control. Core, periphery, and semi periphery. So, Wallerstein's world system theory conceptualizes that the global economy as consisting of core, periphery, and semi periphery states or regions. In essence, the core states are those countries in a region that are economically advanced and extract surplus from the periphery regions, which are less developed and resource bearing. Semi periphery may show features of both the core and periphery states. And then there's also the dependency on unequal exchange, which Wallerstein posits that the role of unequal exchange is shaped by the relationship between the core and peripheral regions within a world system. The division of a world system involves a hierarchy of occupational tasks in which tasks requiring higher levels of skill and greater capitalization are reserved for higher ranking areas. So, if we look at his contributions, the major contribution he made was the world system theory. It's highly relevant for the concept of globalization as it offers insight into the structure of the global capitalist economy. For instance, if one were to look at the concepts covered on the last slide and apply them to our conceptualized definition of globalization, one would find that Wallerstein's perspective of capitalism underscores the characteristics of modern global economy. The way that his framework can be applied extends the integration of economies, societies, and cultures on the global scale in transcending influential pattern of product and trade. The capitalist class has claimed to be the universal class and sought to organize political life to pursue its objective against two opponents, laborers and traditionalists. Further, the unequal distribution of power and resources geographically placed westernized culture economies in surplus wealth, extracting resources from peripheral states, placing disproportionate global integration, and potentially forcing marginalized regions to stay less developed in a less developed state, keeping labor cheap and raw materials good in the market. So let's look at Harvey real quick. So Harvey's main things were Keynesian post-war antics. Harvey argued that the Keynesian model policies allowing government interventions in fiscal business practices dominating Western societies post-World War II was a crisis of legitimacy due to its ineffectiveness by the 1970s. Increased inflation, declining productivity, and instability affected Keynesian policies that were allotted for state intervention and regulation. Unemployment and inflation were both surging everywhere, ushering a global phase of stagflation that lasted throughout most of the 1970s. Neoliberalism response. Okay, so Harvey saw that the response of capitalists to the failures of the Keynesian model as promoting neoliberalism. He argued that the economic elites and corporate intrigue took the opportunity of a weakened market and pushed for a neoliberal reform that deregulates markets, reduced state intervention, and promotes privatization. After the implementation of neoliberal policies in the late 1970s, the share of national income of the top 1% of income earners in the United States soared to reach 15% by the end of the century. So, what were his contributions? Harvey provided a historical context to the political and economic emergence and trend of neoliberalism, which traces its origins to the 1970s uh, economic crisis and the rise of conservative political dominance. The failures of Keynesianism, which had policies allowing for greater state intervention, led to a shift of market-oriented policies in the United States and Europe, and the deregulation of in the economic region. It is within reason to assume the deregulation across world markets facilitated the expansion of global capitalism and the integration of participating powers into a single market. By emphasizing this relationship, uh, the relationship between neoliberalism and globalization, Harvey's work can offer insights into the processes shaping contemporary global economy and society. So, if we were to look at the important theories that I went over today, I think the world systems theory, Mill's interconnectedness of the ruling class, and Weber's capitalism and modernity would come to be the top choices for understanding globalization. And um, to give more detail into why that is, Wallerstein provides a lens to understand globalization. His theory views capitalism not just as a national economy, but as a global system. This helps us to see how different regions interact economically, culturally, and politically. The theory shows how some areas benefit more. Uh, the theory shows how some areas benefit more, like the core regions, while others are exploited, peripheral regions. Essentially, it helps us to grasp the unevenness of power imbalances inherent in globalization. Mill's concept of interconnectedness of the ruling class is relevant to globalization because it highlights how elites from different sectors like politics, business, and military are connected and often work together to maintain their power and influence. In the context of globalization, this interconnectedness extends beyond national borders. Globalization facilitates the integration of elites from various countries into transnational networks where they can collaborate on economic deals, policy making, and other global issues. This interconnectedness reinforces their collective power and enables them to shape global economic, political, and social agendas to serve their interests. So Mill's idea helps us to understand how globalization can strengthen the power of global elite class. Impacting decisions and policies on a worldwide scale. And Weber's analysis of capitalism and modernity relates to the globalization by shedding light on how economic and cultural processes intersect on a global scale. Weber's idea help us understand how capitalism, with its emphasis on rationalization and bureaucratic organization, serve as a driving force behind globalization. Globalization involves the expansion of capitalist economic systems, leading to increased interconnectedness and integration of markets, cultures, and societies worldwide. Weber's insights into the rationalization of economic life and the rise of bureaucratic structures help us grasp the complexities of global economic systems and the challenges they pose. Furthermore, Weber's concept of the iron cage of rationality underscores the potential drawbacks of globalization, such as the erosion of traditional values and the dominance of instrumental rationality in shaping global affairs. So, in conclusion, I think it's safe to say that capitalism is not for the empathetic because of all of the negative impacts that we can say happen as a result of um, the if we go back to when I was talking about the importance of globalization, the negative consequences of globalization can be tied back to capitalism, um, from economic inequality, job displacement, labor exploitation, environmental degradation, cultural homogenization, and social dislocation. And here are my references. Thank you.